What did I get myself into? It's winter, there's nice light everywhere. It's nice to be outside. I'm a bit scared of this challenge. I'm not really sure what to expect of it. At least I found my subject for today. Um, and I'm just gonna get right into it. I'm still having the same gear. I'm not gonna be showing it every single time, but at least you guys know what I'm using. Now, when I'm sketching, I also have to think about the format where I'm painting, which is a squared page. So therefore, I have to crop my reference picture. What interested me of this scene was that very long shadow, and also like the very big shape that the trees and the house and the shadow of the trees makes. So it makes it a very good first subject for this challenge of painting 100 days on plein air. I mean, it is quite scary, especially because the original idea was just to do 30 days. But since I've actually done 100 days of landscapes, a different series where I learned how to paint landscapes in 100 days, but digitally, I thought that it would just be a better and more challenging thing to do for 100 days than for 30 days only. And I don't know about you, but I like a good challenge. I feel like doing anything for 30 days is quite easy. Doing it for 100 days is a little bit harder, but still easy enough. I think that doing anything for example, a year, doing one thing every day for a year is quite hard. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of discipline, and I mean, it would be amazing if I could do this for a year, but I'm not going to put that kind of pressure right now because the whole point of this challenge for me is to reconnect with the spontaneity and like the curiosity of being outdoors and being inspired by light and color and the landscapes. And yeah, so putting that kind of pressure of, okay, I have to do this for a year, and on top of that, I have to film it and edit it and voice over it for a whole year. It's quite a challenge. So therefore, I thought that 100 days is like the nice sweet spot because it's long enough for it to be a challenge, and it's short enough for it to not get too overwhelming if it becomes too hard to keep up with. That's why I had to set those sustainability strategy guidelines per se of minimum editing, just voiceovering, and a little bit of B-roll, just so it's about as easy. But we'll see. I mean, I will probably change things on the go. But now let's get more into what I'm thinking while I'm painting. I mean, the sketch part is not so interesting. Or maybe it is. I mean, you have to let me know in the comments below. But now I'm just starting with the sky. It's a very bright sky, so I'm trying to make it as dull as possible. In a way, I don't want it to take too much of the attention. I'm sorry that my head is in the way. The putting the tripod in a way that I could paint myself, film myself painting was kind of challenging. I couldn't actually see the frame. I could only see it after I sat down. I stopped the video and then checked it. So I was kind of hoping that this whole video was in frame. So you'll just have to excuse that for a bit. And also, you'll notice that I forgot my rag to dry my brush with. So I'm just using my pants for now. I mean, these are some old jeans, so it's okay. Now I'm trying to paint the light right in front of me, the part where it was most bright. It's very beautiful, dreamy light that we saw in the beginning when I chose my composition and also started sketching. I mean, you probably already know this by now, but I'm sick, and that's why I sound so bad. But I still wanted to start this challenge because it's good to start when you're excited and inspired. It's not good to put things off, especially when you're gaining momentum. So I thought, you know what? This might be my medicine, so I'm gonna try to do it anyway. Now, what I'm trying to do is the background mountains. Um, so you can't really see much. I mean, the notebook is quite far away, but it's okay. Now you see me there, drying my brush in my pants. It's quite hilarious. The good thing is that there was nobody around, so nobody saw this weird guy painting and then um drying his brush on his pants. Now I am gonna be moving down to the lower corner, which is still far away. I'm using my creative license to just skip or remove or not add some detail that I see because I want to not get bugged by detail. But as you can still see me like fiddling with like small details, or I think I'm just avoiding the house since it's gonna be a darker red kind of bluish color. So maybe that's what I'm doing right now. I can't remember. I think it is. You can start to see the edge of that house. And I think I'm gonna move all the way closer until then I have to start doing the shade of the house. Which makes a bit of logical sense since it's like moving from the furthest object to the closest object. And in watercolor, since you go from light to dark, then it makes sense that I'm adding the lightest parts first and then a bit less light or the darkest part of the lights and so on until mid value. And yeah, I guess I opted for the trees. The trees do silhouette the house, and this is one thing that I have to start learning to see better, is that these kind of silhouettes in a shade, it doesn't really matter to silhouette the object in the middle, because I think it looks nicer in a painting when things or edges are a bit softer, and in shadow usually edges are softer, even though when we see it in real life we see them very sharp. When you communicate it with soft edges in a painting, it just gives it a little bit more light. A little bit more life, and also you can play a lot more with color, let it kind of just paint itself and not really worried about everything being in the perfect place. I'm just right now adding a bit of suggestion that those are trees, because at first I just did a big shape of trees, and then I just added first the lightest tone of the tree, which was a yellow green. Now I'm adding a bit more blue on top just to suggest that there is shadow or that there's a strong light hitting the trees. And as you can see, I'm doing one of the very common mistakes that beginners make, and that is not using enough paint. I find it interesting that I'm not really a beginner, but I can still make those mistakes. And I think that's the challenge of plein air, like feeling rushed, knowing that the light is moving and that you don't have a lot of time. And I don't have a lot of time because I only give myself 15 minutes to paint this, right? And thinking and placing the right tone. But in watercolor, if you place the paint down and it looks right, then it's wrong. And that's something I learned from Andy Evenson. He said it many times in several of his videos that I found on YouTube. So it's very interesting that even knowing that, I still make the same mistake. So I'm already kind of liking the fact that I have to voice over these videos and look at myself painting, because I'm just learning to see the mistakes that I'm doing while I'm painting. And also, the reason why I'm not voiceovering or narrating as I'm painting is because it will take away some concentration and probably will make me paint even worse, because I'm thinking of what to say and I'm thinking on what to do. And since this is new to me, well, this is not my first time painting plein air, but it's still new. It's still something that I'm not really comfortable in. So it will definitely be a challenge for me to narrate and paint at the same time. And well, I mean, I guess I get to learn twice by watching myself paint and also explaining my reasoning for how I do things. That will also help me know if there's some flaw in my process. And I think we all, at the end of the day, get to learn something. And I think that's what I'm most looking for in any personal project that I do, that it doesn't only benefit me, it has to benefit somebody else. And I believe that that's where the best work I've done comes out from. When it's something that I'm very curious to do, very curious to learn and dive myself into, or really be a part of, per se. But knowing that somebody's gonna watch this video at some point in time, and they'll either be inspired to try the same thing, or they'll be learning something that I learned while doing this painting. I mean, that's just invaluable. I mean, even just, I don't know, knowing that you can dry your brush with your pants, it might be just enough for me to feel good about me sharing this video. But in any case, I am doing this challenge for myself to rekindle that spark for painting and learning new things every day. And I think that it's a big challenge to paint outside or paint directly from life and not from a photograph, which I've been doing a lot of, which is not a bad thing, to be honest. But a lot of the masters say, and a lot of the people I mean, a lot of the artists who I look up to say that the best thing that they ever did was to paint from life. So might as well get onto it now, better than later, especially when I need a little bit of a boost of confidence and just something new every day. And I'm sure that painting outdoors is gonna give me that. I don't know if you saw, but I used my nail to scratch off the window that I couldn't actually leave white. And that's a really good technique to use. Your nails as well. Use your nails, use your thumbs, use everything you have to paint. Let everything be a tool. Now I'm just moving on to adding the last bit of detail on the house, mainly the roof. I mean, I'm trying to make this to be a little bit more of a dry brush technique, but since this paper has no tooth, it's super smooth, it's kind of hard to actually get it. So I opt for just making kind of straight lines, straight marks, something simple. It's not gonna look as pretty, but that's not the point of the painting today. The point of today is to capture the impression of light and color. That is the main purpose of this challenge. And I'm happy if I get the color right, or at least the colors that I see right, but the whole painting doesn't look really well, like the composition or the form of, for example, this house doesn't look right. That's fine. I mean, I'm much more interested in knowing that I have the ability to mix the color correctly, or be able to add the colors that I see of the scene, as well as portraying the light in the right way of how strong the light was. And now I'm adding a bit of more shadow on the grass of the football field, or the soccer field, I should say, just to be able to emphasize a bit more the strength of the light of that scene. And I mean, now that I see it from afar and not actually painting it, I can see that I didn't do a really good job, for example, with the trees, but we already went through that, which the mistake was I am not using enough paint, therefore I'm not painting opaquely enough, therefore the sense of light is not as we saw it in the scene where I show the house and the soccer field being lit by this side light. And if at any point anything I say does not make any sense, it might be because I had to pause the recording because I had like to cough my lungs out, and I didn't want to do that on the mic. So I'm sorry if something doesn't make sense. Now I'm using my creative license to add something that really was there, but it wasn't on my original composition, which was that tree that is, a winter tree, meaning it has no leaves left. And I just really like those characteristics of a tree in winter, like all the branches and how they go from very thick to very thin. Now I'm trying to do the dry brush technique to add the supposed twigs, but as I said, this paper is way too thin. I mean, too smooth. Therefore, since it has no tooth, it doesn't make any gaps. And if there's no gaps, then it just looks like a very flat and untextured surface or mark. Now I'm just adding the poles of the little of a fence that kind of marks where the property of that house starts. And this is exactly why I said I need 15 minutes only to paint, because otherwise I tried to do this and is adding the little wires that go crisscrossed, and I mean the brush is way too big for doing that. The surface of the paper is way too smooth to do that. But anyway, here is the finished painting. Not bad for day one, and I think that I'm quite happy with it. And now I just need to sign the date and the number on it, and we are done for today. I hope that you like this video and that you're finding this to be somewhat interesting. But yeah, I will see you tomorrow.